The desert has always hidden secrets, buried under silence, dunes, and shimmering light. Yet few secrets have defied time and faith as profoundly as the one found above the Dead Sea, within the broken cliffs of Qumran. What lies there is not just another artifact of history, but a whisper that challenges the strongest walls of religion, power, and belief itself. There are discoveries that rewrite our understanding of the past, and there are those that make us question whether we were ever meant to know the truth at all. Among the Dead Sea Scrolls, thousands of brittle fragments carrying lost words of prophets and priests, there exists a single relic unlike any other. Not ink on parchment, not words written on soft animal skin, but something harder, colder, and impossible to ignore. It was found rolled tight, so stiff and heavy it could not be opened without breaking. A cylinder of beaten copper, green with age, sealed with the patience of centuries. In the dawn light, the scholars who first held it knew they had uncovered something extraordinary, but they could not yet imagine what those metallic lines would reveal once unfolded. When it was unrolled, piece by piece, the world of archaeology held its breath. For what emerged was not scripture, not prayer, but a list. Carefully numbered entries, 64 in total, each describing locations where unimaginable amounts of gold and silver were said to be hidden. Temple vessels, ingots, and ritual objects buried deep across the Judean wilderness, each marked with meticulous directions. The copper scroll of Qumran, unlike the other Dead Sea Scrolls, spoke not of faith but of fortune, not of divinity but of wealth and perhaps of something far more dangerous. The text itself was written in a strange, almost technical Hebrew, difficult to read and older than most of the other scrolls. It described with chilling precision distances, landmarks, and hidden chambers, often tens of meters underground. In the cistern that is in the ruin of the Valley of Acre, it might say, followed by a weight, a description, and a measure of buried treasure. Whoever had written it did not expect to be misunderstood. But who would have hidden such wealth? And why carve its locations on copper, a material almost eternal compared to parchment? Only a people who knew they might never return. Only priests or scribes who watched the destruction of their world and sought to preserve what little they could for a future that might never come. The year was nearly 70 after the birth of Christ, and the Roman legions had marched upon Jerusalem. The Second Temple, heart of Jewish faith, was burning. Treasures that had adorned its inner sanctum, the golden menorah, the plates of offering, the vessels of the altar, were destined to be carried off as plunder. Unless, of course, someone made them vanish first. So perhaps they did vanish. Perhaps they were spirited away into secret places, into caves, tunnels, and cisterns known only to a handful of men sworn to silence. And perhaps, centuries later, one single record of their act survived, engraved into copper and buried beneath the sands. When the scroll was first examined after its discovery in 1952, scholars found themselves at odds. Many refused to believe it could be real, calling it fantasy or an apocryphal ruse. Others saw in it a treasure map more authentic than any legend ever told. Governments kept silent, churches avoided comment, and the world's greatest museums waited. For how do you interpret a script that neither prays nor preaches, but instructs you step by step where to find billions in ancient sacred metal? The very air around Qumran seemed to change, as if the desert itself knew the weight of what had been written. To stand in that place is to feel something strange, almost alive. The stones glow faintly beneath the relentless sun, the sound of wind whistles through hollow caves. You imagine distant footsteps, sandals brushing dust, and the faint strike of metal tools buried in the past. The Dead Sea lies below like a mirror of liquid salt, reflecting the same sky that watched when the copper scroll was first hidden. When the team unrolled the scroll, they did not immediately understand what it was. It took years before the text could be fully translated, and by then, rumors had already spread that the Vatican had taken interest, that excavation permits were mysteriously delayed, and that certain archaeologists were warned not to dig too deep. Those whispers were never written down. But they traveled from scholar to scholar, growing quieter with each retelling, like a secret that prefers silence to light. Somewhere between archaeology and faith lies a boundary no one dares to fully cross, and the copper scroll seems to stand right on that invisible line. It is said that the copper scroll was found in Cave 3 at Qumran, a small hollow chamber that looked no different from the others. Inside, 3 scrolls were discovered, and one of them gleamed faintly beneath a coating of dust. That metallic shine was unlike anything seen before. And it was heavy, so heavy it had to be cut into strips for reading, each strip handled with the delicacy of ancient gold leaf. Reading those strips was like listening to a coded voice from 2,000 years ago, concise, urgent, and cold. There was no theology in its words, no poetry, no lament. Only precise instructions, written by someone who wanted to make sure that a future reader could find the same places again. Lines spoke of steps carved into rock, of hidden chambers under ancient aqueducts, of sealed entrances behind tumbled stones. Each entry enough to guide a trained explorer, yet vague enough to confound anyone who sought easy gain. It read like a stern puzzle, crafted to test patience, wisdom, and perhaps purity of intent. Many wonder whether the scroll was meant for others not yet born. Perhaps its author hoped not for thieves, but for restorers, those who would one day rebuild the sacred places of Jerusalem and bring back what had been lost. Or perhaps, darker still, it was intended never to be found at all. Imagine the scene in Qumran at dawn, thousands of years ago. The copper is freshly beaten, the letters still glint beneath oil lamps. A scribe sits silently, engraving the last words onto the rolled surface, his hand trembling not from fear, but from destiny. Outside, the desert hums with the wind. The air carries a faint smell of salt and ash from distant fires. He finishes the scroll, seals it with care, and passes it into the hands of men who vanish into the hills. No one records their names. No one records their journey. From that moment forward, the earth becomes the keeper of their secret. Centuries pass. Empires rise and fall. The world forgets. Sand covers everything, concealing the pathways once known to those who carried the treasure. Then, by a coincidence almost divine, shepherds wandering the desert throw a stone into a cave and the sound of something breaking echoes through time. That echo begins the modern tale of the Dead Sea Scrolls, a discovery that shook scholars and theologians alike. Among fragments of ancient wisdom suddenly emerged the copper scroll, speaking not of spiritual salvation, but of material wealth larger than imagination. For every man and woman who has ever read of it, a quiet conflict begins to believe, or not to believe. The possibility that hundreds of tons of gold and silver still lie hidden under the desert does not only imply fortune, it implies an unbroken chain between the faith of 2 millennia ago and the world of today. If even part of the Copper Scroll's list is real, what does that mean for the history of the temple, for the narrative preserved for centuries by religious powers? And if it is false, why would anyone of that era have gone to the expense of engraving so elaborate a document on metal instead of parchment? These are the questions that have haunted both archaeologists and theologians since the scroll's discovery. Some argue the scroll was a symbolic text, representing spiritual riches or divine blessings. Others, especially those who have walked the terrain it describes, believe its references are far too precise, far too practical, to be metaphor. They describe the same valleys and cisterns mentioned in the scroll still existing today, dry tunnels cut through limestone, sealed pools, and ruins with markings too ancient to date. Yet whenever excavations approach too closely, something intervenes, funding withdrawn, permits revoked, or access mysteriously denied. Perhaps coincidence? Or perhaps protection, from above or below? The copper scroll rests today in a museum, locked behind secure glass, its fragmented metal patches gleaming like antique mirrors. Visitors look into it without realizing they are looking into one of history's most enduring riddles. Every reflection on its surface holds 2,000 years of unanswered questions. There is something hypnotic in the way those engraved letters catch the light. They are neither decorations nor holy verses, but coordinates to a world long vanished. You can almost hear them whisper when you close your eyes, directions, numbers, distances. Not promises, but instructions, meticulous, unemotional, and eternal. And as the quiet hum of desert wind fills your mind, you begin to see the landscape it describes. Wide valleys of red stone, hollow caves half buried in dust, distant hills crowned by silence. The treasure might not just be gold or silver, it might be the truth itself, locked beneath the same layers of time, waiting for the world to be ready. For whoever wrote the copper scroll understood one thing: no empire, no temple, no kingdom lasts forever. But secrets, when engraved into metal and buried beneath sacred ground, can outlive them all. The copper scroll's message was unlike any other ancient document. It did not recount history nor chant sacred hymns. Instead, its copper surface was inscribed with a precise inventory: 64 locations scattered across the rugged Judean wilderness, each linked to hidden caches of gold, silver, and priceless objects. Imagine listening to a voice from antiquity directing you through barren valleys and rocky hills, revealing secret stairways cut into stone cliffs, concealed cisterns filled with treasures beyond imagination. The scroll was a map, a literal guide to lost wealth, and nothing about it was accidental. Each line spoke of weight in talents, miners, and shekels, units that carried more meaning 2,000 years ago than just currency. These were measures of sacred wealth, offerings once gleaming in the temple, vessels used in rituals that shaped the spiritual heart of a nation. Some entries mentioned enormous amounts of silver, others spoke of gold ingots carefully stored and hidden out of sight. It was not simply about common riches, but tokens of divine service, trophies taken or hidden during the greatest upheaval of the ancient Jewish world. The ancient temple had been more than a place of worship, it was the very center of Jewish identity. Its treasures were symbols. They represented not just money, but faith, endurance, and hope for a future unveiled beyond destruction. And yet, these treasures had vanished into shadow. The copper scroll's list seemed to be the only witness to their existence since the flames of the temple were extinguished by Roman fire. The inscriptions often began with directions near water sources, mentioning cisterns where precious metals awaited discovery. The contrast between the harsh desert sun above and hidden wells underground painted a haunting picture of survival and secrecy. One entry detailed a cave reached by descending stone steps, faintly discernible beneath centuries of dust and neglect. Another spoke of a fortress ruin where ornate vessels were said to lie entombed beneath fallen stones secured by iron bars. The scroll's text implied knowledge of these locations that only a few could hold. It was as if it had been crafted by those who had been entrusted with the temple's final pilgrimage, charged with saving its treasures from enemy hands. Because the scroll was copper, it preserved something more than words, it preserved hope. It ensured that the sacred wealth would be remembered, even if it would remain lost to the world for generations. Over time, experts puzzled over the scroll's origin. Who had written it? What kind of person could combine the devotion of a priest with the precision of a cartographer? The answer eluded many. Some believed temple priests had penned it in secret, aware that their holy sanctuary was doomed. Others suggested it was the work of treasure guardians entrusted with protecting their sacred duty through the ages. Whatever the source, the list was a testimony written in metal to secure the past's greatest treasures for a future yet unwritten. The scroll's cryptic locations sometimes reference natural landmarks, such as valleys, cliffs, or springs, inviting the reader to become a seeker in a landscape both familiar and transformed by time. It was not a simple treasure map drawn on a fragile scroll, but a lasting memorial engraved eternally into copper, resistant to the harsh elements that erase memory and meaning. Decoding its directions required not only language skills, but profound knowledge of ancient topography, and a willingness to walk the wild valleys of Judah, where stones whisper forgotten stories. An attempt to find the treasures today falls into a landscape both vast and protected, where nature's reclaiming of the land has obscured many signs. Yet fragments of the destination still exist, inviting both hope and caution. As the scroll's message circulated among scholars and treasure hunters alike, it stirred dreams of wealth and fears of losing something sacred. Most of the places described remain undiscovered, hidden beneath layers of earth and silence. The scroll is a key, but one whose lock has resisted every attempt to turn it. This resistance has fueled legends. Some say the treasures are cursed, bound by divine protection. Others believe that the treasures still serve a purpose, waiting for the right moment, or the right person, to unearth them. Scientists have used satellite imaging and ground-penetrating radar to scan the sites listed, revealing underground anomalies that hint at hidden chambers or voids. But harsh terrain, political complexities, and limited access have kept many sites unexplored, preserving the mystery. The copper scroll's enduring allure is its blend of cold fact and dreamlike promise. It is not only a historical document but a siren call to adventurers who yearn to connect with the past through the thrill of discovery. For religious believers, it offers hope that some sacred treasures survived ruin. For historians, it offers insight into the Temple era's final days. For treasure hunters, it is a map of untold riches. Yet, it remains largely unreadable in a practical sense, each line inviting doubt and wonder in equal measure. The language it uses is steeped in ancient measurements no longer in common use, distances described in cubits or steps that do not translate easily onto modern maps. The scroll's text was likely intended to be understood only by a select few, initiates who knew how to interpret its symbols and clues. Its specificity suggests a world of secret knowledge, a world hidden from common view and preserved for a trust beyond time. Each hidden treasure listed promises a doorway into that world, a fragment of history that could illuminate the mysteries of the Temple, the fall of Jerusalem, and the people who lived through those turbulent days. And yet, the treasures themselves, if they exist, remain silent. They lie dormant beneath the desert stones, waiting for the sun to rise on a world ready to discover them anew. The copper scroll speaks in riddles carved in metal and dreams folded beneath the desert's endless sky, bridging the past and present in a spellbinding silence. It is a testament to human longing, the desire to preserve, to protect, and to uncover what lies hidden beyond the grasp of time. Theories about the origins of the treasure listed on the copper scroll have fascinated historians and archaeologists alike, puzzling over the line where faith meets reality. Many believe that the treasures described once belonged to the Second Temple in Jerusalem, a sacred place whose destruction marked the end of an era and the scattering of a people. The Second Temple was more than a building, it was the heart of spiritual life for the Jewish people, a beacon of ritual, law, and identity. The treasures hidden away were not simply gold and silver, but vessels filled with sacred power, crafted with exquisite skill, and imbued with meaning that transcended material wealth. Around the time of the Roman siege, fear and desperation swept the land. To protect what was holy, priests and faithful guardians may have hidden the treasures in secret locations, hoping to preserve the soul of their faith amid the approaching storm. These locations were scattered, as the scroll detailed, across caves, cisterns, and fortresses in the wilderness. Each hiding place was chosen with care, far from the eyes of invaders but close enough to be reachable only by those who knew the land intimately. There are stories that the treasures were carried under the cover of night, borne across stony paths and hidden in shadows, sealed with prayers and oaths sworn in silence. Each cache was a promise that the sacred light could one day be restored. The scroll's listings include references to queens, fortresses, valleys, and water sources, all forming a complex map that intertwines geography with history and legend. Where one line speaks of silver hidden beneath a stone, another hints at the burial of golden trumpets in step-hidden caves. The thought that these treasures exist beneath the desert sands ignites the imagination. Such items could rewrite history, revealing untold stories of courage, piety, and loss. Yet, their discovery remains elusive, wrapped in layers of time and mystery. Unraveling these clues demands more than archaeology, it requires walking the same paths as the ancients, reading stories written in rock and wind, understanding the rhythms of a landscape both harsh and sacred. Modern explorers face not only the challenge of nature's reclamation but also political boundaries and restrictions. Areas mentioned in the scroll often lie within contested or protected zones, where excavation is difficult or forbidden. This has only fueled speculation that some powers might prefer the treasures remain undisturbed, that the scroll's secrets are guarded not just by the desert but by the institutions that wield influence today. The Vatican's alleged interest in the scroll itself has sparked controversy. Some suggest the Church fears what finding the treasures might reveal artifacts that could challenge long-held doctrines or reshape religious narratives. Other scholars argue that such fears are exaggerated but acknowledge that the scroll touches on a realm where faith and politics inevitably overlap. Ancient treasures carry more than material value, they carry the power to influence identity and belief. Explorers recount how local guides speak cautiously about places mentioned in the scroll, often treating such talk as taboo. Legends of curses, divine retribution, and untold danger weave themselves into the cultural fabric surrounding these sites. The notion that the scroll itself could be a trap or a warning is not new. Some believe it was deliberately designed to mislead, to protect the treasures by confusing seekers or deterring the unworthy. Yet, others see it as a beacon of hope, a message from a lost generation trying to preserve their heritage. The careful placement of each location suggests a deep reverence for what was hidden, a trust that one day, light would return to darkness. Theories about curses are part of a long tradition in treasure lore, the idea that sacred wealth carries a spiritual cost, that violation of the sanctity guarding it invites misfortune or disaster. Such beliefs have kept many treasures undiscovered, the fear of curses as powerful as any physical barrier. Scientists have turned to modern technology to pierce the veil of desert secrets. Satellite imagery, magnetometry, and ground-penetrating radar reveal anomalies beneath seemingly barren land, hinting at voids, tunnels, or chambers consistent with the scroll's locations. But technology alone cannot solve the mysteries. It must be combined with ancient wisdom, local knowledge, and careful interpretation to distinguish natural formations from human hiding places. Each attempt to unearth these treasures brings stories of frustration, unexpected findings, and sometimes sudden, unexplained setbacks. Equipment fails, storms arise, and permissions vanish. The desert is relentless, guarding its secrets jealously. The treasures, if real, stand as a testament to a people's faith, their resilience amid catastrophe, and their hope for renewal. They connect us across millennia, a silent vow etched into copper and stone. For those drawn to the scroll's allure, the search becomes not just about gold or silver but about discovering a lost chapter in the human story, a story of devotion, survival, and the enduring power of memory. The scroll challenges every assumption about history and archaeology. It asks us to look deeper, to listen closer, and to consider that some secrets are meant to be guarded until the world is ready. In this way, the Copper Scroll is more than an artifact, it is a bridge to a vanished world, a whisper from sacred times, echoing beneath the sun-baked hills and starlit skies. The Copper Scroll's story is not only about hidden riches, it is about the ancient hands that guarded sacred trust in turbulent times. The final custodians of the temple's legacy were faced with a devastating choice: to surrender or to conceal the very treasures that defined their faith. It is believed that these guardians undertook a quiet, secret mission under cloak of darkness, moving artifacts of immense significance from the temple to unknown hiding places. Their efforts were both practical and spiritual, a final act of protection before the storm. The treasures listed on the scroll reflect not just value but sanctity. Golden menorahs, incense altars, silver trumpets, each item carried symbolic weight within ritual and belief. Their loss to history would be a wound beyond measure. Why the Copper Scroll itself was crafted remains one of its greatest mysteries. Copper was chosen not for ease but for endurance, promising that the message would survive beyond parchment's fragility and fire's destruction. Working with metal was difficult, laborious, and costly. The very act of inscribing such a list was a statement the items were not myths, but a reality hard to erase by time or conqueror. Each inscription on the scroll is a guide, but also a riddle. Directions are given by reference to landmarks no longer visible or transformed. Distances are measured in ancient terms, requiring modern interpreters to decode not just language, but landscape itself. Locating these places today demands a blend of scholarship and intuition, combining ancient texts, parchments, and local lore. It is an archaeological puzzle that challenges every assumption about the nature of lost treasure. Why, if the treasures were hidden for safekeeping, were their locations recorded at all? Some argue the scroll was meant for a future generation, a map left as an inheritance for those who would one day reclaim their past. Others suspect it was a message to protectors of the faith, a reminder of what was at stake, and a spiritual guide through dark times. The scroll's existence bridges past intent and present mystery in silent conversation. The power of the Copper Scroll is amplified by the mystery surrounding its discovery and subsequent disappearance for decades. Found hidden within a remote cave, it took years before the world truly grasped what it contained. Its secrecy has bred speculation. Was it always meant to be hidden, or did human agency veil it from the public to protect the sacred trusts it reveals? The tension between revelation and concealment adds to the scroll's allure. It is an object caught between two worlds: record and myth, history and legend, and this duality fuels endless fascination. Each attempt at excavation faces obstacles beyond the natural. Political boundaries, religious sensitivities, and the desert's ruggedness combine to protect the locations listed on the scroll. This protection is sometimes attributed to divine will, echoing ancient warnings that those who disturb sacred sites do so at their own peril. Such beliefs have shaped human interaction with archaeological sites for centuries. The Copper Scroll's treasure map is, in a sense, a spiritual legacy, one carried forward through messengers and tales rather than open paths and clear signs. Its survival challenges the passage of time, reminding us that some histories are meant to be rediscovered slowly, with reverence and patience. Modern treasure hunters continue to be drawn by the scroll's promise, yet few have penetrated the layers of mystery that envelope it. The treasures are at once tangible and elusive, a paradox reflected in the scroll itself. There are accounts of dreams, visions, and meditations inspired by the scroll, as though it calls not only to the intellect but to the spirit, inviting seekers into a deeper understanding beyond mere wealth. Such experiences bind seekers together, adding a human, emotional dimension to what might otherwise be a cold archaeological pursuit. The Copper Scroll is a bridge connecting the physical and the metaphysical, the seen and the unseen. It beckons us toward a world where history, faith, and mystery intertwine. In the end, the treasures themselves may be less important than what they represent: the enduring human desire to preserve meaning across generations, to hold on to hope even when all seems lost. The story of the scroll stretches beyond its words and symbols. It is about the desert and its secrets, the sacred and the profane, and the relentless passage of time that watches over both. Each line etched into copper is a thread in the tapestry of human memory, waiting to be traced by those patient enough to listen and wise enough to understand. The scroll invites us to consider what we value most: the gold beneath the earth, or the stories that shape our souls. As the wind moves gently across the barren hills and the stars begin to shine above, the Copper Scroll continues its quiet vigil, silent, eternal, and waiting. The list of locations inscribed on the Copper Scroll takes us deep into a landscape shaped by history and time, yet filled with signs of ancient life. Each site described carries echoes of ceremonies long past and treasures lost beneath layers of dust and stone. Walking the terrain today, one senses the weight of story sleeping beneath the quiet hills, their silence broken only by the whispering winds and distant cries of desert birds. Valleys once vibrant with human movement now stretch empty, guarding the secrets the scroll preserves. The scroll's references to cisterns and hidden caves invite us to imagine the work of those who carved stairways into cliffs, who hid treasures under stones, and marked sacred sites with symbols from a world that feels almost otherworldly. Some locations speak of old fortresses, their crumbling walls weathered but still holding fragments of the past, subtle hints at places where sacred objects were once safely stowed. Others mention springs and valleys that remain water sources even today, linking past to present in a seamless bond. The details woven into the scroll suggest not random hiding places, but a carefully plotted network of sanctuaries, each chosen with spiritual and strategic purpose. It was not just about protection, but preservation of heritage. These locations remind us that the landscape itself is a living record, a vast map carved by human hands and sacred to generations whose footsteps still seem to linger in the dust. Explorers who have sought to trace the scroll's path speak of encountering remnants of ancient roads, fragmented pottery, and faint markings on stones, breadcrumbs leading to truth still veiled by time. In the desert heat, the land offers both challenge and clue. Surviving structures whisper fragments of stories of temples, pilgrims, and sacrifices that placed each treasure in a context of devotion rather than mere wealth. The scroll's mention of springs emphasizes the role of water, not only as a life source but as a sacred element in ceremonies and in the journey to protect these treasures. Water is woven through the landscape, a silent witness to the passage of centuries. The descriptions conjure an image of a world where faith, geography, and survival intertwined, where every hidden cache was a touchstone of continuity amid destruction. Locating these scattered sites requires a harmony of past and present knowledge, blending biblical texts, local traditions, and archaeological findings into a single narrative thread. The challenges are many times erosion, political complications, and shifts in terrain obscure the map laid down in metal so long ago. Yet, each successful identification adds a stitch to history's fabric, bringing lost knowledge into light. Even today, the valleys and caves named in the scroll resonate with a mysterious pull, as though memory itself has anchored there, waiting for discovery. The profound connection between the scroll and the land invites reflection on how places shape belief, and how sacred geography preserves faith across generations. Though centuries have passed, the fundamental interplay of stone and spirit continues to captivate those who seek the truth buried beneath the surface. The scroll's legible yet cryptic directions challenge seekers to engage deeply with the landscape, to read not just words but features: the shape of hills, the flow of water, the alignment of stones. This calls for a patient, reverent approach, transforming the search from a mere hunt into a pilgrimage through time and meaning. Such journeys sketch the contours of history with each step, uncovering stories layered beneath earth and memory. The inscriptions open a window into a world where the sacred was inseparable from everyday life, where treasures were as much symbols of hope as objects of gold and silver. They remind us that what we seek in the dust is not just wealth, but the echoes of a vanished faith and the resilience of a people determined to endure. The terrain itself, harsh and beautiful, acts as a guardian and muse, inspiring awe and humility in equal measure. Walkers in these lands often speak of a shifting silence both soothing and profound that connects the present moment with centuries past. This silence holds the scroll's secrets, whispers of prayers, and the promise of return. And as the desert envelops all in a glow of dusk, the treasures, whether real or symbolic, hold their place in the tapestry of time, waiting patiently beneath endless skies. Theories connecting the copper scroll to the Vatican weave an additional layer of intrigue around this ancient text. It is whispered that the Vatican, guardian of countless relics and shrouded histories, views the scroll's contents with profound concern. What might be revealed if the treasures were uncovered? The possibility that the scroll points to artifacts capable of rewriting religious narratives is unsettling for some. Sacred vessels from the temple, sacred trumpets, and golden menorahs could challenge frameworks held for centuries. This evokes questions about knowledge, power, and control. Historically, the Vatican has been a custodian of ancient secrets, guarding relics that shape faith and identity. The notion that such treasures linked to the heart of Judaism might emerge unbidden creates an uneasy tension between preservation and revelation. Scholars debate whether there is active suppression concerning these treasures. Some claim that permits for excavation are stalled without clear reasons, that investigations are quietly discouraged, and that access to certain sites is tightly controlled. Countless legends swirl around the scroll's existence, stories of hidden archives, secret councils deciding what should remain buried, and the ongoing negotiation between faith and history. Explorers and researchers share tales of cryptic warnings, unexplained obstacles, and sudden ends to permitted digs. This has led to whispers of a silent guardian, a presence watching over the treasures from behind the veil of institutions. The Vatican itself does not officially comment on the scroll's contents or the treasures it describes. However, its historical stance on preserving religious mystery fuels speculation. In this light, the Copper Scroll becomes not only a treasure map but a symbol of contested truth and narrative that challenges official stories and invites us to question what is kept in shadow. Religious scholars speculate about what the treasures might represent beyond their material worth. They speak of spiritual authority, the continuity of covenant, and a faith that echoes through these hidden articles. The treasures could hold keys to understanding ancient rites, lost prayers, and the very structure of worship that defined a civilization. Their discovery could inspire profound reflections and new dialogues about history and belief. Such potential implications make the scroll a document of immense power and mystery, its rediscovery a question not only of archaeology but of theology and faith. Behind closed doors, it is said, the dialogue between historians, theologians, and political leaders continues, navigating the fine lines between revelation and reverence. For many, the scroll offers more than a path to treasure, it is an invitation to explore the intersections of history, faith, and human aspiration. The Vatican's rumored interest is a reminder that the past can hold power in the present, shaping perceptions and decisions in unseen ways. Yet the scroll remains silent on these matters, its copper surface cold and inscrutable, offering its message only to those patient enough to unravel its mysteries. The silence surrounding the treasures echoes the desert itself, vast, unyielding, and full of secrets waiting beneath the sands. This silence invites contemplation about the nature of knowledge, its preservation, and its sharing across generations and institutions. Amid this tension lies the enduring allure of the Copper Scroll, a text that challenges us to wonder about what lies beneath, beyond, and within the landscapes of history and faith. It beckons explorers, scholars, and dreamers alike to walk the edges of certainty and mystery, embracing the unknown in pursuit of truth. The Vatican connection adds depth to the scroll's enigmatic power, reminding us that history's treasures can have meanings far beyond gold or silver. They are threads woven into the fabric of belief, identity, and the eternal human quest to understand where we come from and where we might be going. To follow the Copper Scroll is to enter a world of shadows and light, a place where sacred history and human ambition intertwine beneath the endless sky. Each step on this journey is a step through epochs of faith, conflict, and hope, a pilgrimage toward understanding that transcends time itself. As night falls and stars blanket the desert, the scroll's secrets remain just out of reach, a shimmering promise beneath the vault of heaven, whispering of treasures that await the patient, the faithful, and the brave. Legends surrounding the treasures hidden in the Copper Scroll often speak of ancient guardians, protectors chosen not only to hide wealth, but to shield it with divine force. These stories tell of curses laid upon the treasure, warnings inscribed not on metal alone but on the very fabric of the land. To disturb what is sacred is to tempt fate. Such warnings have echoed through generations, carried in whispered tales and cautious retellings around desert fires. They serve both as protection and as silent deterrents to those driven solely by greed. The idea of guardianship transcends the physical world. It speaks to a spiritual defense, an unseen shield guarding the holiness imbued in the treasures. Such beliefs suggest the treasures are entwined with fate itself, bound to the legacy of those who sacrificed to protect them. Stories tell of seekers who ventured into caves and lost their way, of those who faced sudden misfortune when attempting to unearth what should remain hidden. These tales fuel the idea that the desert keeps its secrets jealously, and that some doors are meant to remain closed. The symbols carved in the copper scroll hint at this sacred protection. References to curses and divine retribution warn of consequences for violation. Ancient communities often intertwined religion with law, making safeguarding treasures a matter of spiritual duty. Such narratives invite us to reflect on how ancient peoples viewed their connection to the divine not as distant observers, but as active participants in a mystery that defined their existence. The intertwining of material wealth with divine will creates a landscape where searching for treasure is not solely a physical endeavor but a spiritual quest. Only those worthy, it is said, might ever hope to succeed. This spiritual dimension colors the modern search for the treasures. Explorers speak of feelings, unseen presences, protective forces, energies felt in the silence of the caves and among the desert winds. The concept of a curse carries weight beyond superstition. It serves as a boundary between the known and the unknowable, a reminder of limits set by ancient wisdom. Yet, the lure of the treasures is powerful, combining the promise of wealth with the call to connect with a sacred past. Many are drawn to the scroll in search of both, embarking on journeys that test not only endurance but faith. The stories of guardians and curses echo larger themes of legacy and the human struggle to hold on to meaning in the face of loss. They are reminders of the fragile intersection of history, belief, and mystery. Excavation efforts often include rituals of respect, acknowledgement of the sacred, as if confronting not only physical barriers but spiritual ones as well. These practices connect modern seekers with traditions that have passed through centuries. Scholars studying the copper scroll recognize that its inscriptions are not merely geographic directions but deeply symbolic messages coded with layers of meaning, each ripe for interpretation under a spiritual lens. Decades of modern exploration have uncovered little tangible proof of the treasures explicitly, perhaps reflecting the power of the guardianship spoken of in legends. Yet, those who embrace the scroll's mysteries find themselves part of a continuum, a shared human endeavor to preserve faith, history, and hope through time. The path to uncovering the treasures may be as much inward as outward, a journey of understanding, humility, and connection to something greater than oneself. In contemplating the stories of guardianship and curse, we confront our own relationship to the past, to the sacred, and to the mysteries that endure beyond human reach. The modern quest to unravel the copper scroll's mysteries has embraced technology alongside ancient scholarship, creating a bridge between past and present in the search for hidden treasures. Cutting-edge methods, from satellite imagery to ground-penetrating radar, have revealed mysteries just beneath the desert surface. These tools allow explorers to peer below layers of soil and rock, detecting voids and anomalies that might indicate hidden chambers or ancient caches. Yet technology alone cannot decode the scroll's riddles. It requires the patience and insight of those attuned to history's subtle clues. Field researchers combine maps and texts, local knowledge, and scientific data in a meticulous dance, tracing the winding path carved by the scroll's instructions. Each discovery is a step closer to unlocking what generations have sought in shadow and silence. Many excavations are hindered by political complexities and the need to preserve fragile environments. Archaeologists must navigate permits, military zones, and cultural sensitivities, balancing progress with respect for land and history. Despite these challenges, breakthroughs have been made. Unmarked caves discovered match scroll descriptions, geological formations align with ancient terrain references, offering tantalizing hints at the truth beneath the sand. Yet, the desert holds its secrets closely. Excavations sometimes cease abruptly due to funding shortages, administrative obstacles, or unexplained phenomena that halt work and deepen the mystery. Each modern expedition adds layers to the story: artifacts found, sites surveyed, paths explored, building a complex mosaic of evidence and imagination. It is a modern pilgrimage as much as an archaeological endeavor. Collaboration between archaeologists, historians, spiritual leaders, and local peoples fosters a nuanced understanding of the scroll's significance, extending beyond search for treasure to include cultural and sacred dimensions. The spirit of the search lies not only in uncovering gold but in reconnecting with a lost heritage, and in honoring the resilience and faith of those who hid these treasures so long ago. The technology and methods evolve, but the fundamental questions remain timeless. What was the true purpose of the treasures? What stories do they hold about a world extinguished but not forgotten? The answer may be found not only underground but in the dialogue between the past and present, science and faith, knowledge and mystery. Satellite images shimmer with whispers of tunnels, scans reveal hollows where vessels might rest undisturbed. Yet to step beyond those digital shadows into the earth is to accept the unpredictability of discovery. Modern explorers often speak of a profound sense of awe beneath the desert sun, of standing where ancient priests and guardians might have walked, feeling the weight of history on every stone. The convergence of the old and new, the scroll's ancient wisdom with modern technology, creates a narrative both scientific and poetic, blending facts with dreams. As excavations continue, each small find adds to the fragile thread connecting us to the temple's legacy, binding generations across millennia in a search at once physical and spiritual. The desert's silence remains, a vast canvas for stories yet to be uncovered, inviting patience and reverence from those who dare to explore beneath its surface. In the end, the copper scroll is a gateway between worlds, a message inscribed in metal, technology's beacon, and a call to all who seek the mysteries beneath the sands to carry forward the timeless journey of discovery. Imagine the treasures themselves, lying silent beneath layers of earth and stone, untouched for millennia yet filled with stories waiting to be told. Each golden ingot, silver chalice, and sacred vessel carries echoes of rituals, prayers, and hands that once lifted them in devotion. There is a profound stillness in believing these treasures exist somewhere, a silent testimony to faith and perseverance beyond destruction and exile. They offer a bridge to a world nearly lost, a tangible link to centuries of culture and belief preserved in secrecy. The possibility of uncovering such artifacts is powerful, stirring imagination and hope, yet tempered by the weight of history and the reverence owed to what these items represent. They are not merely objects but symbols of identity, continuity, and resilience. Beneath the desert's surface, these treasures may hold insights into lost technologies, sacred ceremonies, and the daily lives of ancient peoples, enriching our understanding far beyond their material value. Each artifact is a piece of a larger mosaic, revealing a civilization's soul in metal, stone, and story. These treasures, buried far from prying eyes, challenge the very nature of memory and loss. They remind us that history is layered not only in texts and ruins but beneath the ground we walk on, waiting patiently for rediscovery. The reverence with which these items must be approached calls for a careful balance between curiosity and respect, between discovery and preservation. The past is never simply unearthed, it must be honored and protected. Stories surrounding the treasures speak of a sacred trust passed from generation to generation, a promise to guard what cannot be replaced and to remember those who sacrificed for future hope. This promise carries a deep emotional weight, linking ancient guardians with modern seekers who imagine themselves part of a continuum, a lineage of faith and wonder. Uncovering the treasures carries with it the responsibility to understand not just their physical presence but their spiritual significance within the communities that created them. The artifact's survival depends on the land's gifts and challenges, on natural caves protected by geological formations, on the silence of deserts where wind and sand preserve as much as they conceal. Each discovery is a dialogue with time itself, a conversation spanning centuries, between past and present, silence and voice. As modern explorers sift through history's remnants, they become part of the story, adding layers of insight, interpretation, and meaning to the treasure's legacy. The treasures are not just objects of wealth but keys to understanding the values, beliefs, and struggles of ancient people navigating tumultuous times. Within each inscribed line on the copper scroll lies the promise of connection, a shared journey across ages toward truths held sacred. This connection transcends archaeology. It is a testament to the enduring human spirit, resilient and hopeful in the face of loss and silence. To imagine opening a hidden chamber or uncovering a lost vessel is to enter a space where history breathes, where the whispers of the past echo underfoot and wonder takes tangible form. And yet, the treasures remain cloaked in mystery, as elusive as the desert mirages that dance in the heat, inviting both discovery and reverence. The copper scroll rests, its secrets guarded by time, the desert, and unanswered questions that have lingered through centuries. It whispers of treasures, yes, but also of mysteries far deeper, of faith, loss, and the enduring human spirit. This final chapter is not about discovery alone, but about surrendering to the mystery, understanding that some treasures are meant to sleep, waiting until the world is ready. The scroll is a bridge, a silent guardian of history and hope. Each line etched upon the copper carries the weight of history and breathes prayers, hopes cast into desert winds, waiting for ears willing to listen. It is a testament to those who hid their heritage in silence, trusting time to keep it safe. The treasures may never be fully uncovered, yet their story belongs to all who seek truth beyond gold and silver, beyond stone and sand, in quiet moments between curiosity and awe. Engaging with the copper scroll is to step into a vast tapestry of human endeavor, stitched with threads of courage, fear, reverence, and hope. It is a story shared across generations, cultures, and beliefs. As night falls across ancient lands, stars witness the continuing passage of time, the promise of return, and the eternal dance between what is hidden and what is revealed. The desert holds no answers, only questions inviting us to become seekers, storytellers, keepers of dreams. It challenges us to listen deeply, honor the past, and carry forward the eternal journey. In the end, the copper scroll is more than a relic. It is an invitation, a call to patience, to faith, to the unending quest for meaning beneath the surface of history and ourselves. As the wind moves again, brushing across stones as ancient as time, the scroll's story continues silent, eternal, waiting for the day when the sands will finally reveal its treasure.